Park Tae-ho woke up to the worst sound in the universe. His alarm was screaming at him, and the time on the screen made his heart stop. He was late. Not just a little late. He was very, very late. He jumped out of bed so fast that he hit his knee on the small table in his room. Pain shot through his leg, but he did not have time to care. His ship was leaving in 15 minutes. The freighter Stellar Wind was going to Earth Colony 7, and Tae-ho had a job waiting for him there. A good job. A job that would change his life. He grabbed his bag and ran out of his tiny room at the transit station. The hallways were full of people from 100 different worlds. Tall aliens with 4 arms. Short creatures with big eyes. Robots carrying cargo. Tae-ho pushed through them all, saying sorry over and over as he bumped into shoulders and stepped on feet. The Andromeda transit station was huge. It was like a small city floating in space. Thousands of ships came and went every day. Tae-ho had worked here for 3 years as a cargo handler. He moved boxes. He checked lists. He loaded and unloaded ships. It was boring work, but it paid enough to keep him alive. But now he had a chance for something better. A friend on Earth Colony 7 had found him a job as a maintenance technician. Better pay. Better hours. A real future. All he had to do was get on the ship. He ran faster. His lungs burned. Sweat dripped down his face. He looked at the signs above him, trying to find Docking Bay 47. The numbers flew past him. 42, 43, 44. His communicator buzzed. A message appeared on the screen. Final boarding call for Stellar Wind. Docking Bay 47. Departure in 5 minutes. 5 minutes. He could make it. He had to make it. He turned a corner and saw 2 airlocks ahead of him. One was on the left. One was on the right. People were walking into both of them. Tae-ho did not slow down to check the signs. He did not look at the ship names. He just saw an open airlock and ran through it. The door closed behind him with a heavy sound. Tae-ho bent over, hands on his knees, breathing hard. He made it. He actually made it. He walked forward into the ship, looking for a seat. The hallway was dark. The walls were black and shiny, like polished stone. Red lights glowed softly along the floor. Tae-ho frowned. This did not look like a freight ship. Freight ships were ugly and dirty and smelled like old metal. This place looked like a palace thought. He found a small room with seats and sat down. The seats were big. Too big for him. His feet barely touched the floor. Something felt wrong, but he was too tired to think about it. The ship shook gently as it left the station. Tae-ho closed his eyes and let out a long breath. He made it. Everything was going to be fine. Then he heard footsteps. Heavy footsteps. They sounded like thunder in the quiet ship. Tae-ho opened his eyes and looked up. His blood turned to ice. Standing in front of him was the most terrifying creature he had ever seen. She was tall. So tall that she had to bend her head to fit in the room. Her skin was covered in silver scales that sparkled in the red light. 2 horns curved back from her head like a crown. Her eyes were gold with black slits in the center like a snake. Behind her, 2 great wings folded against her back. A long tail swayed slowly behind her. A Drakai. She was a Drakai. Tae-ho had heard stories about them. Everyone had. The Drakai were an ancient race of dragon people. They were proud and fierce and dangerous. They kept to themselves and rarely talked to other species. No human had ever been invited onto one of their ships. And now Tae-ho was sitting in one. The dragon woman stared at him. Her golden eyes did not blink. Then she spoke. Her voice was deep and smooth, like a river of honey. What is this? More footsteps came from behind her. 6 more figures appeared. 6 more dragon women, each one different. Green scales. Blue scales. Black scales, white scales, purple scales, gold scales. They all looked at Taeho like he was a bug on their dinner plate. Taeho tried to speak, but his voice came out as a tiny squeak. He cleared his throat and tried again. I think I got on the wrong ship. The silver dragon tilted her head. The wrong ship? Yes, I was supposed to board the Stellar Wind freighter ship, going to Earth Colony 7. He laughed nervously. So if you could just, turn around and drop me back at the station, that would be great. The dragons looked at each other. The blue one made a sound that might have been a laugh. The green one crossed her arms and frowned. The silver dragon stepped closer. Taeho pressed himself back into the seat. She was so close now that he could feel the heat coming off her body. Dragons were warm. Very warm. I am Captain Yuri of the Ember Crown, she said. We are on a voyage to our homeworld. The journey will take 3 months. We cannot turn back. 3 months. Taeho's stomach dropped. Okay, but maybe you could drop me at the nearest station. I really need to get to Earth Colony 7. I have a job waiting for me. Yuri shook her head slowly. That is not possible. You have seen the inside of our ship. By Drakai law, we cannot release you. What? Why not? Our ships are sacred. Their secrets must be protected. Anyone who sees them must stay with us or die. The room went very quiet. Taeho could hear his own heartbeat in his ears. I choose staying, he said quickly. Staying is good. I like staying. The gold-scaled dragon in the back made a warm sound. He is funny, this little human. The green one huffed. He is a problem. We should have checked the airlock before departure. What is done, Yuri said. She looked at Taeho with those cold, golden eyes. You will be our guest for the next 3 months. You will stay in the storage area. You will not touch anything. You will not go anywhere without permission. Do you understand? Taeho nodded quickly. Yes, absolutely. Crystal clear. Yuri turned and walked away. The other dragons followed her, but not before giving Taeho long looks. The blue one smiled at him, showing teeth that looked very sharp. The black one said nothing but stared at him in a way that made him feel like prey. Only the white-scaled dragon stayed behind for a moment. She had kind eyes, softer than the others. I am Nari, she said gently. I am the medic. If you feel sick or hurt, you can come to me. Thank you, Taeho whispered. She nodded and left. Taeho sat alone in the dark room. The ship hummed around him. Somewhere in the distance, he heard the dragons talking in their own language. It sounded like fire and wind. He put his head in his hands. 3 months. 3 months trapped on a ship full of dragon women who could probably eat him for breakfast. His new job was gone. His future was gone. Everything he had worked for was gone. All because he got on the wrong ship. Taeho laughed. It was a sad, tired laugh. Then he leaned back in the giant chair and stared at the ceiling. This was going to be a very long trip. The storage room was small and cold. Taeho sat on a thin mat on the floor, wrapped in a blanket that smelled like metal. This was his home now. A tiny space between boxes of supplies and spare parts. It was not comfortable, but at least he was alive. The first few days on the Ember Crown were hard. The dragons did not talk to him much. When they looked at him, he could see what they were thinking. They thought he was weak, small, useless, just a soft little human who had stumbled into their world by accident. He heard them talking sometimes when they thought. He was not listening. Why do we have to keep him? That was Hana, the engineer with green scales. Her voice was always angry. He's just taking up space and eating our food. He cannot help what he is, said Nari, the gentle medic. Humans are fragile. We should be kind to him. Kind? Hana laughed. He's like a baby bird that fell out of its nest. He will probably die before we reach home. Those words hurt, but Tejo did not let them see. He kept his head down. He stayed in his storage room. He tried not to cause any trouble, but trouble found him anyway. 1 week into the journey, alarms started screaming. Red lights flashed everywhere. Tejo jumped up from his mat and ran into the hallway. He could hear shouting and the sound of heavy footsteps. He followed the noise to the engine room. The door was open, and he could see Hana inside. She was standing in front of a large machine, her claws moving fast over the controls. Smoke was coming out of one of the pipes. Sparks flew through the air. "What is wrong?" Tejo asked. Hana did not look at him. "The coupling unit is broken. If I cannot fix it, we will lose power to half the ship." Tejo stepped closer. He had worked with machines for years at the transit station. Loading cargo was boring, but he had always been curious about how things worked. He spent his free time learning about engines and systems. He was not an expert, but he knew more than most cargo handlers. He looked at the smoking machine. He could see the problem right away. The coupling unit was designed for a very specific type of connection, but the pipe it was connected to had shifted. The angle was wrong. No matter what Hana did, the connection would keep failing. "You need to rotate the base," Tejo said. Hana finally looked at him. Her golden eyes were full of fire. "What did you say?" "The base of the coupling unit. It is at the wrong angle. If you rotate it 45 degrees, the connection will hold." "That is ridiculous. Drokai engineering does not work that way." "Maybe not, but physics works that way." Tejo pointed at the pipe. "The pressure is pushing against the seal from the wrong direction. If you change the angle, the pressure will push the seal tighter instead of breaking it." Hana stared at him. For a moment, he thought she was going to throw him out of the room, or maybe throw him out of the ship, but then she turned back to the machine. Her claws moved. She rotated the base. The smoke stopped. The sparks disappeared. The machine hummed smoothly. Hana stood very still. She did not say anything for a long time. Then, without looking at Tejo, she spoke. "Get out." Tejo left quickly, but as he walked down the hallway, he felt something strange. He felt like he had won a small victory. Word of what happened spread through the ship. The crew started looking at him differently. Not with respect, not yet, but with curiosity. How did the soft little human know how to fix a Drokai engine? The next day, Nari came to his storage room. She was carrying a small bag of medical tools. "I want to examine you," she said. "For science. I have never studied a human before." Tejo agreed. He had nothing else to do anyway. Nari spent hours checking him. She measured his heart rate. She tested his blood. She looked at his skin and bones and muscles. She asked him 1,000 questions. How long do humans live? How much can you lift? How fast can you heal? When she was done, she sat back with a strange look on her face. "You are impossible," she said. "What do you mean?" "Your body is so weak. Your skin is soft. Your bones are thin. You have no claws, no scales, no fire. By all logic, your species should have died out long ago." Tejo shrugged. "We are tougher than we look. That is what I mean." Nari leaned forward. "I found something in your biology. When humans are hurt, your body does not give up. It fights, it heals, it adapts. You can survive things that would kill a Drokai. Burns, cuts, broken bones. Your body just keeps going." She looked at him with wonder in her eyes. "You are fragile," she whispered, "but you do not break." Those words stayed with Tejo. They made him feel stronger. The days passed. Slowly, the crew began to accept him. Not as a friend, but as something interesting to study. Sora, the blue-scale pilot, was the most curious. She came to visit him almost every day. She sat on a box in his storage room and asked him questions about Earth and humans and everything. Why do humans laugh so much? She asked one day. Tae-ho thought about it. I guess because life is hard. Laughing makes it easier. Tae did not laugh like that. We are serious, I noticed. Sora tilted her head. Tell me a joke. What? A joke? I want to understand. Tae-ho thought for a moment. Okay, why did the spaceship break up with the asteroid? Sora blinked. I do not know, because it needed more space. Silence. Sora stared at him. Then her face twisted in the strangest way. Her mouth opened. A sound came out. It was rough and awkward, like she had never made it before. She was laughing. That was terrible, she said, between laughs. Humans are very strange. But she came back the next day to hear another joke. Even Captain Yuri began to notice him. She did not visit him like Sora did. She did not ask questions like Nari. But sometimes, when Tae-ho walked through the ship, he caught her watching him. Her golden eyes followed him like she was trying to figure out a puzzle. One evening, Tae-ho was standing on the observation deck. It was a big room with windows that showed the stars outside. He liked coming here when the crew was busy. The view made him feel small, but in a good way. Like his problems did not matter so much compared to the whole universe. He heard footsteps behind him. Heavy footsteps. He turned and saw Yuri standing there. She did not say anything at first. She just stood next to him and looked at the stars. You do not act like a prisoner, she said finally. What do you mean? Most creatures in your position would beg. They would cry. They would try to escape. But you just exist. You fixed our engine. You make Sora laugh. You let Nari study you like a specimen. Why? Tae-ho looked at the stars. What else am I supposed to do? I cannot change my situation. I can only control how I react to it. Yuri was quiet for a long moment. That is a very Drakai way of thinking, she said softly. Maybe humans and Drakai are not so different. Yuri made a sound. It might have been a laugh. We are very different, little human. But perhaps that is not a bad thing. She turned and left. Tae-ho watched her go. Her silver scales caught the starlight and glowed like moonlight. For the first time since he boarded this ship, Tae-ho felt like maybe things would be okay. He was still trapped. He was still far from home. But he was alive. He was learning. He was changing. And maybe, just maybe, he was changing them too. He looked back at the stars and smiled. 2 more months to go. 1 month into the journey, Tae-ho had found his place on the ship. It was not a big place. He was still the strange little human who slept in the storage room. But things were different now. Hana still frowned at him, but she stopped calling him useless. Sometimes she even asked for his opinion on engine problems. She never admitted that he was helpful, but Tae-ho could see it in her eyes. So Ara visited him every day. She taught him how to play Drakai games. Most of them were about strategy and war. Tae-ho lost every time, but Sora did not seem to mind. She just laughed that rough, awkward laugh and told him to try again. Nari kept stunning him. She was writing a paper about human biology. She said it would be famous among Drakai scientists. Tae-ho was not sure how he felt about being a research subject, but Nari was kind, so he did not complain. Bora, the purple-scaled navigator, started talking to him too. She was quiet and serious, but she had endless questions. What do humans believe in? What are your stories? What do you dream about? Tae-ho answered as best as he could. Eun, the golden cook, was his favorite. She decided that Tae-ho was too thin and made it her mission to feed him. The food she made was terrible. Drakai ate meat. Lots of meat. Sometimes raw. Sometimes still moving. Taeho choked down what he could and smiled through the rest. Only Mina remained distant. The black-scaled weapons officer never spoke. She watched Taeho with cold eyes, like a predator watching prey. He learned to stay out of her way. And then there was Yuri. The captain was a mystery. She did not visit Taeho like the others. She did not ask questions or play games or try to feed him. But she was always there, watching, waiting, like she was trying to decide something. Taeho did not know what she was thinking. He was not sure he wanted to know. One night, he was lying on his mat, almost asleep, when the alarm started. This was not like the engine problem. Those alarms were yellow and soft. These alarms were red and screaming. The whole ship was shook like it was being hit by something. Taeho jumped up and ran into the hallway. He could hear shouting and the sound of weapons firing. The ship shook again, harder this time. He fell against the wall. Sora came running past him. Her blue scales were bright with energy. Void Reapers. She shouted. Stay hidden, little human. Void Reapers. Taeho had heard of them. They were space pirates. The worst kind. They attacked lonely ships far from help. They killed everyone on board and took everything valuable. The ship shook again. Taeho heard an explosion somewhere behind him. Then another sound. A door breaking open. They were boarding. Taeho's heart was beating so fast he thought it would burst. He should hide. Sora told him to hide. He was just a human. He could not fight. He did not have claws or scales or fire. He was useless in a battle. But then he heard a scream. It was Yoon, sweet kind Yoon, who tried so hard to feed him. He ran toward the sound. He found her in the kitchen. 3 pirates had broken in through a side airlock. They were ugly creatures with gray skin and too many eyes. They had weapons that sparked with electricity. One of them had a Yoon pinned against the wall. She was fighting, but she was hurt. Blood dripped from a wound on her arm. The other 2 pirates were going through the supplies. They had not seen Taeho yet. He looked around. He needed a weapon, anything. His eyes landed on a fire extinguisher on the wall. He did not think. He just moved. He grabbed the extinguisher and swung it as hard as he could. It hit the first pirate in the back of the head. The creature made a strange sound and fell. The second pirate turned around. Taeho sprayed the extinguisher in its face. White foam covered its many eyes. It screamed and stumbled backward. The third pirate let go of Yoon and charged at Taeho. It was fast. Too fast. Taeho could not dodge. The pirate tackled him, and they both crashed to the floor. Pain exploded through his body. The pirate was heavy. Its claws dug into his shoulder. Taeho could feel blood running down his arm, but he did not stop fighting. He kicked. He punched. He bit. He did everything he could to stay alive. Then a shadow fell over them. A blade flashed. The pirate's head rolled across the floor. Mina stood above him. Her black scales covered in blood. She looked down at Taeho with those cold eyes. For a moment, she just stared. Then she did something she had never done before. She nodded. The battle lasted another hour. The Drukai fought like demons. Fire and claws and blades against guns and electricity. In the end, the Void Reapers retreated. They left behind a dozen dead and a badly damaged ship. But the Ember Crown had paid a price too. The walls were burned. Equipment was destroyed. And Taeho was lying in a pool of his own blood. He barely remembered what happened next. He remembered being lifted. He remembered Nari's face above him, her white scales bright in the red light. He remembered her voice, calm but urgent, giving orders. Then everything went dark. He woke up in the medical bay. Everything hurt. His shoulder was wrapped in bandages. His chest ached with every breath. His head felt like it was full of rocks, but he was alive. He turned his head and saw Yuri sitting beside him. The captain looked tired. Her silver scales were dull, and there were shadows under her golden eyes. "You are awake," she said. Taiho tried to speak, but his throat was dry. Yuri handed him a cup of water. He drank it slowly. "How long was I out?" he asked. 2 days. "Nari did not think you would survive. You lost too much blood. Your wounds were too deep." Yuri paused. "But you did survive. Somehow. I'm stubborn." "Yes, you are." They sat in silence for a while. The ship hummed around them. Taiho could hear repairs happening somewhere in the distance. "Why did you fight?" Yuri asked finally. "You are not a warrior. You could have hidden. You should have hidden." Taiho thought about the question. Why did he fight? He was just a human. A cargo handler. He had no training, no weapons, no powers. Fighting was stupid. Fighting was suicide. But when he heard Yoon scream, he did not think about any of that. "Because she is my crew," he said simply. "Even if you will not let me leave. Even if I am just a guest." When I heard her screaming, I could not just hide. "That is not who I am." Yuri looked at him for a long moment. Her golden eyes were soft in a way he had never seen before. "You are a strange creature, Park Taiho," she said quietly. "Most humans would have protected themselves. Most creatures would have. But you threw yourself into danger for someone you barely know. She fed me. She was kind to me. That matters." Yuri was quiet again. Then she did something unexpected. She reached out and touched his hand. Her scales were warm, almost hot. "Thank you," she whispered, "for saving her." Then she stood and left. Taiho lay in the medical bay, staring at the ceiling. His body hurt. His mind was tired. But somewhere inside him, a warm feeling was growing. He was part of this crew now. Not just a guest. Not just a prisoner. He was one of them. Later, when he could walk again, he found his storage room transformed. Hannah had installed a real bed. Yoon had filled a shelf with food that humans could actually eat. Sora had hung pictures of stars on the walls. Bora had left a collection of books about Drakai history. Nari had added soft blankets and pillows, and on his pillow he found a single silver scale. A captain's scale. Taiho held it in his hand and smiled. 1 more month to go. And for the first time, he was not sure he wanted the journey to end. The days after the pirate attack were peaceful. The crew repaired the ship. They told stories about the battle. They laughed and argued and lived their lives. And Taiho was part of it all. He ate meals with them now. Real meals at the big table in the common room. Yoon sat next to him and made sure he had enough food. Sora told jokes that she had learned from him. Hana complained about the engine repairs, but she smiled when she did it. Even Mina nodded at him sometimes. It was not much, but from her, it meant everything. Yuri sat at the head of the table. She did not talk much during meals, but she watched Taiho with those golden eyes. Sometimes their eyes met across the room. She would look away quickly, but not before he saw something soft in her expression. Everything was good. Everything was peaceful. Until Bora told him the truth. It happened one evening on the observation deck. Taiho was watching the stars when Bora came to stand beside him. Her purple scales glowed gently in the starlight. "We are getting close," she said. "Only 2 more weeks until we reach the homeworld." Taiho nodded. He had mixed feelings about that. Part of him wanted to see the Drakai planet. Part of him was afraid of what would happen when they arrived. "Tao," Bora said quietly, "there is something you need to know." He turned to look at her. Her face was serious. More serious than usual. "What is it?" Bora took a deep breath. "Do you know what kind of ship this is?" "A Drakai ship?" "Yes, but what kind?" She paused. "This is a matriarch's ark. It is a sacred vessel. Only unbonded Drake females can travel on it. Taeho frowned. Unbonded? You mean unmarried? In your terms, yes. The Ark is used by females who are seeking mates on our homeworld. It is part of an ancient tradition. The females prove themselves through a long journey, and when they arrive, they are considered ready for bonding. Taeho was not sure why this mattered. Okay, so it is a special ship. What does that have to do with me? Bora looked at him with sad eyes. The Ark is sacred. Its interior must never be seen by outsiders. When you boarded this ship by accident, you broke a very old law. His stomach felt cold. Yuri told me that. She said I could not be released because I saw the ship. That is true. But there is more. Bora's voice dropped to a whisper. When we reach the homeworld, the council will judge you. An outsider who's seen the Ark must be claimed by one of the crew as a mate. If no one claims you, she did not finish the sentence. She did not need to. I die, Tao said. His voice sounded flat and far away. Yes, the stars suddenly seemed very cold. Taeho felt like the floor was falling away beneath him. All this time, all these weeks of feeling like he belonged. And now he learned that he was still a prisoner. Still a problem. Still a dead man walking. Does the crew know? He asked. We all know. We have known since the beginning. Why didn't anyone tell me? Bora looked away. I think. We did not want to think about it. You became part of us. It was easier to pretend the problem would solve itself. Anger rose in Taho's chest. Then sadness. Then something empty and cold. He did not know what to feel anymore. Thank you for telling me, he said finally. I needed to know. Mora nodded and left him alone. Taeho stood on the observation deck for a long time. He watched the stars spin slowly past the window. His mind was full of thoughts, but none of them made sense. He had survived pirates. He had earned the respect of the crew. He had started to believe that maybe he had a future. Now he learned that his future was death. He found Yuri in her quarters. The door was open. She was sitting at her desk, reading something on a screen. When she saw him, she stood up quickly. Taeho. What is wrong? Bora told me, he said. His voice was hard. About the Ark, about the law, about what happens when we arrive. Yuri's face changed. The softness disappeared. She looked old and tired and afraid. I was going to tell you, she said quietly. When? The day before I die? I did not know how. She turned away from him. I thought I could find a solution. I thought maybe the council would make an exception. You saved Yoon. You helped repair the ship. You have proven yourself worthy 100 times over. But the law does not care about that. No, it does not. Taeho stepped closer. There is another option. Bora said someone could claim me. As a mate, Yuri went very still. Yes, that is the other option. Why didn't you tell me that? Because I will not force that on you. Yuri finally turned to face him. Her golden eyes were bright with something that looked like pain. A Drakai bond is not like human marriage. It is deeper, stronger. It cannot be broken. If one of us claimed you, you would be tied to her forever. Your whole life would change. My whole life already changed when I got on this ship. This is different. You would be giving up your freedom, your identity, everything. Taeho laughed. It was a bitter sound. What freedom? What identity? I was a cargo handler who got on the wrong ship. I had nothing waiting for me. No family. No home. Just a job on some colony I have never seen. Yuri stared at him. What are you saying? I am saying. Taeho stopped. He took a deep breath. I am saying that I would rather be bonded than dead. And I am asking why you never offered. The silence between them was heavy. Yuri did not move. She barely seemed to breathe. "Because I am the captain," she said finally. "If I claimed you, it would look like I was taking advantage. Like I was using my power over you. That is not why. It is." No. Tejo stepped even closer. He could feel the heat from her body. He could see his own reflection in her golden eyes. "I have watched you, Yuri. I have seen the way you look at me. The way you stayed with me when I was hurt. The way you gave me your scale." Yuri's hand moved toward her chest, the place where the scale had been. "Tell me the truth," Tejo said. "Why didn't you offer?" For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, slowly, her mask cracked. Her shoulders dropped. Her eyes softened. "Because I was afraid," she whispered. "Afraid you would say no. Afraid you would hate me for asking. Afraid that you would only agree because you had no choice." Tejo reached out and took her hand. Her scales were warm. Her claws could have cut him open with one swipe. But she was gentle. So gentle. "I do not hate you," he said. "I could never hate you. And if I have to be bonded to someone, I am glad it is you." Yuri's eyes went wide. "You mean that?" "Yes." Before she could respond, alarms started blaring. Different alarms. Not attack alarms. Proximity alarms. Sora's voice came over the speakers. "Captain, a Drakai enforcement vessel is approaching. They received reports of alien contamination aboard the Ark. They are demanding to board us for inspection." Yuri's face went hard. The captain was back. "Tell them to wait. I am coming." She looked at Tejo one more time. "Stay here. Whatever happens, stay hidden." Then she was gone. Tejo stood alone in her quarters. The alarms kept screaming. He could feel the ship slowing down. His time had run out. Whatever happened next would decide his fate. Would he live? Would he die? Would he belong? Or would he be thrown away like trash? He did not know. But he knew one thing for certain. He was done hiding. He walked out of the quarters and headed toward the main deck. If this was the end, he would face it standing up. Like a human should, like the man he had become. The enforcement vessel was massive. It made the Ember Crown look like a toy. Its black hull was covered in weapons, and red lights glowed along its edges like angry eyes. This was a ship built for war and judgment. Tejo watched through the window as a shuttle left the big ship and flew toward them. His heart was pounding. His hands were shaking. But he did not run. The crew gathered in the main hall. Yuri stood at the front, tall and proud in her captain's armor. Behind her, the others formed a line. Hannah, Sora, Mina, Nari, Bora, and Yoon. 7 dragon women standing together. And Tejo, standing alone to the side. The airlock opened. Cold air rushed in. And then she appeared. She was the largest Drakai Tejo had ever seen. Her scales were dark red, almost black. Her horns were long and curved like ancient weapons. Her eyes burned with cold fire. She walked into the hall like she owned everything and everyone in it. Behind her came a dozen soldiers in black armor. They spread out around the room, their hands on their weapons. "Captain Yuri," the old dragon said. Her voice was like thunder. "I am Lady Dara of the High Council. I am here to investigate reports of alien contamination aboard this sacred vessel." Yuri did not bow. "Aunt Dara, I was not expecting family." Lady Dara's eyes narrowed. "This is not a family visit, child. This is an official inspection." Her gaze swept across the room and landed on Tejo. "Ah, so the reports were true. You have brought an outsider onto a matriarch's ark." "It was an accident," Yuri said. "He boarded by mistake. Mistakes have consequences." Lady Dara walked toward Tejo. Each step made the floor shake. She stopped in front of him and looked down. "What is this creature?" It looks like a hairless animal. Taeho wanted to run. Every part of his body was screaming at him to run. But he forced himself to stay still. He forced himself to meet her burning eyes. "My name is Park Taeho," he said. His voice was steady. "I am human. Human." Lady Dara said the word like it was something dirty. "A mayfly species. Short lives. Weak bodies. No powers. Why would anyone keep such a thing?" "He saved one of my crew," Yuri said. "He fought Void Reapers with his bare hands. He has earned his place on this ship, has he?" Lady Dara turned back to Taeho. "By our law, an outsider who sees the interior of a matriarch's ark must die, unless—" She paused. "Unless one of the crew claims him as a mate." She looked at Yuri. A small smile crossed her ancient face. "Well, Captain, will you claim this creature? Will you bond yourself to this weak little thing for the rest of your life?" The room went silent. Everyone was watching. Taeho could feel their eyes on him. Yuri opened her mouth to speak, but Taeho spoke first. "Before anyone claims anything," he said, "I have something to say." Lady Dara looked amused. "The creature speaks. How interesting. Very well, little human. What could you possibly say that matters?" Taeho stepped forward. He was so small compared to these dragons. His head barely reached Lady Dara's chest. He had no claws, no scales, no fire. He was just a man, but he was not afraid anymore. "You call my species weak," he said. "You call us mayflies. Short lives. Fragile bodies. And you are right. We are all of those things." Lady Dara raised one eyebrow. "You admit it?" "Yes, because being weak is not the same as being worthless." Taeho looked around the room. He looked at Hana, who had learned to respect him. At Sora, who had learned to laugh with him. At Nari, who had studied him with wonder. At Bora, and even Mina, who had nodded at him like an equal. Finally, he looked at Yuri. Her golden eyes were full of fear. Not fear of Lady Dara. Fear for him. "Humans live short lives," Taeho continued. "But that is why we live them fully. We love hard because we know we do not have forever. We fight hard because every moment is precious. We do not wait for perfect conditions. We do not hesitate when someone we care about is in danger." He took another step toward Lady Dara. "I got on this ship by accident. I was supposed to go somewhere else. I was supposed to have a different life. But when I heard a friend screaming for help, I did not think about my own safety. I ran toward the danger. Not because I was brave, because that is what humans do." Lady Dara was not smiling anymore. She was listening. "Your crew thought I was useless," Taeho said. "They thought I would break. But I did not break. I fixed engines. I made them laugh. I bled for them. I became part of them. Not because I was strong, because I was stubborn." He stood as tall as he could. "You call us fragile, and maybe we are. But fragile things that refuse to break are the most dangerous things in the universe." The room was completely silent. No one moved. No one breathed. Lady Dara stared at Taeho for a long time. Her burning eyes searched his face. Looking for weakness. Looking for lies. She found neither. Then, slowly, something changed in her expression. The corner of her mouth twitched. And then she did something that shocked everyone in the room. She laughed. It was a deep, rumbling sound that shook the walls. Lady Dara threw her head back and laughed like she had not laughed in 100 years. "Interesting," she said when she finally stopped. "Very interesting." She turned to Yuri. "This creature has shown Varakshi, the unbreakable spirit. I have not seen that in an outsider for 500 years. Yuri's eyes went wide. "Aunt Dara, does that mean—" "By ancient law, one who demonstrates Varakshi may be claimed by a matriarch as a worthy companion. Lady Dara's smile was sharp and full of teeth. So tell me, Captain, will you claim him? Or shall I open the bidding to the rest of your crew? The crew erupted. I will claim him, Sora shouted. No, I saw him first. Hannah yelled back. He is my research subject. Nari protested. I fed him. Yoon cried. Even Mina spoke. He fought well. He would make a good mate. Dora was the only one who stayed quiet, but she was smiling. Yuri raised her hand. The arguing stopped immediately. She walked toward Taeho, her silver scales glowing in the light. She stopped in front of him and looked down at his face. I am not going to command you, she said softly. I am not going to force you. But I am asking. She held out her clawed hand. Stay with me. Be my mate. Let me spend the rest of my life trying to deserve you. Taeho looked at her hand. He thought about everything that had happened. The wrong ship, the fear, the loneliness, and then the friendship, the laughter, the love. He had lost everything when he got on this ship. He had found everything too. He took her hand. I already told you, he said with a smile. You are my crew, all of you, and I am not going anywhere. Yuri's face broke into a smile. A real smile. The first one he had ever seen on her. She pulled him close, her arms wrapping around him. She was warm. So warm that the crew cheered. Lady Dara nodded in approval. The soldiers looked confused but said nothing. And Taeho, the human who got on the wrong ship, finally found where he belonged. 6 months later. He was still living on the Ember Crown. He learned to cook Drakai food that was actually edible. He helped Hannah build a new engine system that combined human and Drakai technology. He taught Sora 100 jokes and listened to her tell them wrong. He became Nari's permanent research partner and Bora's favorite conversation companion. He ate every meal that you made for him, no matter how strange. And every night, he stood on the observation deck with Yuri, watching the stars. Do you regret it? She asked him one evening. Getting on the wrong ship? Taeho thought about his old life. The boring job. The empty room. The future that never was. No, he said. It was the best mistake I ever made. Yuri took his hand. Her scales were warm against his skin. Good, she said. Because I am never letting you go. Taeho laughed. I know. That was kind of the whole point. She smiled and pulled him closer. They watched the stars spin slowly past, two souls from different worlds, bound together forever, and somewhere across the galaxy, in transit stations and colonies and ships, stories spread about the human who had shown Varakshi, the little creature who had faced dragons and refused to break, the man who had changed how the universe saw his species. Humans were no longer seen as weak and forgettable. They were seen as survivors, as fighters, as creatures with unbreakable hearts. And it all started because one man got on the wrong ship. The end.